Hello everyone, I'm Bill Hammond and I actually paid to see this, and welcome to the 2026 Oscar Blitz, where I break down every category and every nominee at the 98th Academy Awards. For this first analysis video this year, we have to start with something we don't often get to discuss, an entirely new category. Debuting in this year's ceremony is Best Casting, the first new category since animated feature was created over 25 years ago. This is uncharted territory, which to me is just so exciting. So many disparate elements go into the making of a great film, and it's high time that they all get recognized. This is a step in the right direction, and in a couple of years, we'll be able to look at stunts for the first time ever. The Academy is still lacking in certain areas, but every little bit of progress does help. For this first time around, we don't have much in the way of judging criteria for the category. An official rules document was sent out by the Academy, and you can read it for yourself, but it doesn't offer much in the way of details. We know that once the short list of 10 films was determined, there was a bake-off meeting where excerpts of the films were shown, as well as recorded statements from the associated casting directors, so that they could describe the collaborative process of choosing the actors. There's also a blurb in the rules about significant engagement with the directors and producers, as well as the selection of actors. So what does that mean for us as regular viewers? It's hard to say. We don't get to know the level of engagement, and the actors picked is very subjective, so there's no outright way to determine what the proper best practices were for determining the field. Only that the members of the casting directors branch were required to watch all 10 shortlisted films before voting for the final 5 nominees. That leaves me to basically just throw my hands up and go with what I felt were the best choices that stood out the most, whether it was a creative casting choice or just the quality of the ensemble. As I do with the Blitz every year, I'll give my thoughts on each of the nominees and then rank them according to my personal preference, with the number 1 slot going to the film or individual who would get my vote if I ever got the privilege of taking part in this process. Hopefully in the coming years we'll get more clarity on what's supposed to be considered, but for this first go-round, it'll just be what I think are the highlights. All good? Cool. Then let's get to it. Hamnet, Nina Gold. When it comes to Hamnet, there are 2 big items to look at. The first is the pair at the top of the bill, Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal. Buckley is currently the frontrunner for Best Actress, with the win being the culmination of a half-decade of stellar work. Mescal has gotten a lot of praise as well, but he takes something of a back seat for half the film, ceding the spotlight to Buckley as part of director Chloe Zhao's creative vision. The second concerns the incarnations of the title character. As a child who tragically dies young, Jacoby Jupe carries a ton of emotional weight as Hamnet, requiring a level of skill far beyond his years. The sentiment is then kicked into overdrive in the final act, as the story posits that William Shakespeare's play Hamlet was a way for him to process the grief of losing his son. When we finally see the first performance, Hamlet is played by former child actor Noah Jupe, Jacoby's older brother. That's a brilliant casting choice. Not only has Jacoby learned from a seasoned professional in his own family, but from the thematic standpoint of creating Hamlet as a version of Hamnet who got to grow up, it's genius to have the 2 brothers give the performances. Again, I don't know what the criteria might be for considering this award, but if we're going for intriguing casting choices, this one's hard to beat. Marty Supreme, Jennifer Venditti. This is what I'd call an instance of what's referred to as stunt casting, where roles are filled more to stand out rather than necessarily going for the best performers. Part of this is because Marty Supreme is largely a Best Actor showcase for Timothée Chalamet as he attempts to finally break through and win an Oscar on his 4th nomination. There's some solid talent alongside him at the top of the bill, namely Gwyneth Paltrow and Odessa A'zion. But once you get to the rest of the ensemble, it's mostly non-actors meant to be warm bodies around Chalamet. Rapper Tyler the Creator plays Marty's friend Wally, former NBA stars Tracy McGrady and Kemba Walker play Harlem Globetrotters, but the biggest stunt cast of all is Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. The character is a rapacious businessman, so the thinking appears to be, why not cast an actual rapacious businessman that audiences love to hate? It's an interesting idea, but the problem is O'Leary isn't an actor, never has been, and it shows in his performance. He's just being the same intransigent prick that he is on the TV show. Maybe that's a bit, maybe that's his actual business philosophy, but it's impossible to separate the character in the movie from the reality TV show Obstacle, and that's where the conceit falls apart. Nothing he does couldn't have been done, and arguably better, by, say, John Malkovich or someone else. But if there was a competent professional performer in the role, he might have stolen attention from Chalamet, and we can't have that. One Battle After Another, Cassandra Koulakounis. One Battle After Another is a case where you could argue the award should go to the most casting as opposed to necessarily the best casting. This ensemble is chock full of A-list talent, from Leonardo DiCaprio to Benicio del Toro to Teyana Taylor to Sean Penn. The film has so many great performers in it that the likes of Regina Hall, Alana Haim, and Jenna Maloney are basically reduced to extended cameos, with Maloney only being a voice role. And then, just for good measure, let's throw in Chase Infinity to outshine all of them in certain spaces in her first ever film role. This is an example of what you get when you fill your ensemble with professionals who know how to work together to give and take on each scene. There are a lot of films out there with elite casts, but it's rare when pretty much all of them get a chance to shine, to the point that many feel Infinity was robbed of a well-earned Best Actress nomination, myself included. This is a true all-star vehicle, bringing the best out of everyone involved. If this wins, it could be simply because of the alchemy that sometimes has to happen for all these personalities to gel properly when it's so easy for ego to rule the day. The Secret Agent, Gabriel Dominguez. This one is hard to parse, mostly because it's a foreign film with a cast that largely doesn't do American or even English language films. Apart from Wagner Moura in the lead role, the most recognizable face to North American audiences is probably the late great Udo Kier, a German actor who has a small role in the film as Hans. But therein might lie the answer to why this is nominated. Kier had previously worked with director Kleber Mendonça Filho on his 2019 film Bacurau, along with other Secret Agent cast members Thomas Aquino and Tanya Maria. Sometimes it's best to go with what you know. In the case of Moura, he works in the film's favor in two meaningful ways. First, before he became an actor, he was a journalist, so a story like The Secret Agent, which relies on a slow burn of information gathering and networks of informants, gains from his experience. Second, this is Moura's first Portuguese language film in years. He broke through as a global star, and now he's coming home in a sense, bringing the attention of the world to the film itself. And just for a little added fun, in addition to his lead role, he also plays the grown-up version of his character's son in the final scenes, similar to the Jupe brothers playing two versions of the same character in Hamnet. Sinners, Francine Maisler. If the casting award is meant to go to the best overall ensemble, similar to the top prize of the Screen Actors Guild, then Sinners is the winner hands down. Top to bottom, pound for pound, this is the best cast. You've got Michael B. Jordan continuing to flex his muscles by playing two roles with distinct personalities, oftentimes in the same scene. Like Chase Infinity in One Battle After Another, you have a complete newcomer in Miles Caton who just blows you away as Sammy. You have Delroy Lindo wringing so much pathos out of a doomed character in Delta Slim. Haley Steinfeld, who started her career out as strongly as possible with an Oscar-nominated turn in the True Grit remake when she was only 14, has now fully grown up into an actress displaying an incredibly versatile range. Wunmi Masaku wowed audiences with her deeply empathetic Hoodoo practitioner, earning herself a supporting actress nomination. Lee Junli and Yao form the most tragic couple in the story, losing their humanity and their lives trying to protect their daughter. And then of course there's Jack O'Connell creating one of the most layered, nuanced villains in recent memory, absorbing not just the blood and life force of his victims, but also their cultural identity as a means to survive. And because he's Irish, there's an odd degree of relatability in his deadly vocation, as his own people were absorbed and assimilated in violent, bigoted ways. All of that would be enough to put this group at the top, but the fact that most of them also have to give convincing musical performances on top is just next level, with Caton leading the way in nearly every scene, and then growing up into a blues legend played by the immortal Buddy Guy, another inspired bit of casting to contextualize Sammy's story and his talents. Part of what made Sinners such a phenomenon last year is that when you take each element on its face, it's hard to imagine how it all could have worked, but amazingly it did, and to the highest levels. This ensemble is the most public-facing proof of that concept. So, with all that in mind, here's how I rank the nominees. In 5th place is Marty Supreme. Timothée Chalamet does an excellent job in the title role, but most of the rest of the casting feels like it's trying to be too clever for what is essentially a Best Actor showcase. 4th place goes to The Secret Agent, 3rd to One Battle After Another, 2nd to Hamnet, and if I had a vote, it would go to Sinners for what is just an amazing ensemble from beginning to end. That's how I see it, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to keep it locked on actuallypaid.com for full Blitz coverage in both video and print form, and I'll be back next week with the next breakdown on our channel as we take a look at costume design. My tuxedo, t-shirt, and I can't wait to give our take on fashion. Until next time, everyone, I'm Bill Hammond. I actually paid to see this.
This is the BTRP Media Network.